Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the episode 34 of the Rovertime podcast. Just another wacky week, and welcome to our guest this week, Dr. or Mr. Sunderland.
Sutherland,
Whoa.
not Sunderland, Sutherland.
Sutherland. All right, fine. Sunderland sounds cooler, though.
I beg to differ.
Stan. And I am Hapless Duffer, or Curious Duffer, or whatever my name is this week. But, gentlemen, what has got your interest?
Oh boy, I don't know where to start. I'm gonna let you go ahead and kick that one off.
People are rioting because their team won the Super Bowl. How does that make any goddamn sense?
I mean, the Raiders do it every time something happens, right? So,
but you won. I mean, why would you be angry about that?
I think there was gonna. Before the Super Bowl said, my thought was there was going to be a riot either way. If they lost, they were going to riot. If they won, they were going to riot. I don't understand it. What good does busting down at the Carlton Ritz, busting down that the awning, people doing dives off, people eating horse excrement off the street. Yes, that literally happened.
I
understand the joy of having your team win, but subsequently destroy your city. I don't get it. There was even video of people at a convenience store saying everything's free, and they were literally looting stores. I'm like, your football team, you won a game. No, it doesn't mean.
See, everybody likes to give gamers shit because it seems kind of weird to just sit in front of a TV and fiddle with a controller and you're not doing anything. But at least I don't know the last time a bunch of World of Warcraft players went out and their guild just fucking caused a fire. I don't know.
No, I don't understand why it. It doesn't suddenly turn into a movie where for 24 hours. There are no laws, and you can do whatever you want. I mean, it's
everyone's just like, it's the purge, y'all.
It's honestly part of the it's one of the things that's kind of gotten me away from sports. It's like, everyone, they're like complaining about the Patriots, but it's like, okay, they've won enough now where their fans are like, this shit doesn't happen. They don't do this kind of stuff. It's like, I understand.
It seems like it's been exaggerated. I just Googled it, but it seems like the riot's been exaggerated.
Well, I mean, I probably was, but I mean, they definitely did. There's definitely video of them looting stores, of cars of stuff on fire in the street, and of them burning, of them.
Yeah, I know that. But I'm just saying that it seems like it's been.
But even I mean, but even that is too much.
Yes, I agree with that. That's definitely ridiculous. It's just absolutely
and it's like, okay, yay, my team won the Super Bowl, so I'm going to eat horse excrement off the street.
Why?
How is that a celebration of? I don't get it.
So with this stand there, I would say what it's an example of is catharsis by proxy. So here in Vancouver, our team, was it 5 years ago, came very close to winning the Stanley Cup, but we lost. So what did people promptly do? Well, they went out and started looting and rioting. And a lot of people actually ended up getting arrested because there was video cameras in all the major stores. But what they found is the majority of the rioters weren't coming out of the stadium, but rather they were people coming in from the outskirts of the city and local areas around Vancouver. So literally people were like, let's go and cause some shit and let's just have some fun doing it. And it is a colossal excuse to do so. And it's not new. So you can go all the way back to ancient Roman times. And if the Colosseum, if your gladiator didn't win, or if you lost in the chariot race, people routinely would sack the city just for shits and giggles. And I think it just speaks to the darker side of our mindset and the fact that we, in some way, still function as a collective or as a large group. And we have a sense of joy in destroying stuff because technically it won't come back to bite us. So there's this anonymity thing that goes along with it too. So I think, though, it also is dependent on the character of the city. And there might be something with Philadelphia that they just took this as, let's do this. So imagine if the Super Bowl had been the Detroit Lions versus someone. Do you think something similar would have happened in Detroit?
Yes.
Yeah.
Detroit is already a shithole. You can do whatever you want. You might make it better.
To be honest, you need 200 to 300 people. And when these cities have, couple 100,000 to 1 million people, I mean, you're talking a small percentage of assholes. And I think it would really happen in most cities if it was, where they, they're not commonly there. I think if it's a situation, like I said, with New England or Boston, where it's like, okay, they've been there consistently. So it's not like, it's not a new thing for them, so it's like, okay, the originality of it has kind of worn off, but someplace like Philly where they've literally never won the Super Bowl, or if it was the Detroit Lions who's never won it, I think you definitely would. You'd still see that.
But Crow raises an interesting issue there, where it appears that the amount of coverage that it got was disproportionate to, let's say, the amount of property damage achieved. And is this just the media literally trying to go with, if it bleeds, it leads? Because I'm wondering, could we see this though as like a victory for Philadelphia, because maybe the Philadelphia police forces prevented large-scale rioting and actually did what they were supposed to do? We just don't get to see that.
Well, I mean, I think, whatever the scale is, I still think it's an asinine, I think it deserves to be covered as a shaming thing, because I although, then it becomes the conundrum. Okay, so by covering it, are we glamorizing it? Which it's like, okay, then other people be like, hey, I can, kind of make it look like something to do. But I don't know. I just think there was definitely people that went, there was arrests. There was definitely, I mean, I just think I understand the, the explanation, but I just think it's asinine. And I think with other stories that, particularly and in a story that has gotten zero coverage, the same weekend of the Super Bowl, there was an NFL player that was
I heard about that.
That was killed. I did a video about this. An NFL player that was killed. He and his Uber driver were both killed. They pulled over to the side of the road because the NFL player had gotten sick because he called the Uber because he was drunk, and an illegal immigrant who was legally intoxicated plowed into them and killed them both instantly. And that literally has gotten, and since I'm guessing really none of you have heard of this story because it's getting no play, no coverage.
Yeah.
I heard it on Ben Shapiro's show.
Okay, well, yeah, Ben would cover it, yeah. But ESPN, not a peep. None of the mainstream media things, not a peep, because it's, I mean, why is that not covered? That's an NFL player loss of life. They couldn't stop screeching when the Seattle linebacker Michael Bennett, was detained after fleeing and so not following officers' commands to stop running away. They couldn't stop screaming about that, and how that is a conversation we need to have. But a black NFL player who's looking at his life, was not a bad guy, was involved with his community, and they could give two shits about it because he was killed by an illegal immigrant.
Well, you could argue that's very much against narrative, and hence why it doesn't get the play that otherwise it might.
Exactly what it is.
And
no question.
In the same vein, you get a lot of straw man arguments and a lot of red herrings coming out of events like this. So Newsweek has an article titled Black Lives Matter Philadelphia Super Bowl Riots Reaction, Glaring Example of White Privilege. And what they say is this: in the aftermath of the chaos that erupted in Philadelphia Eagles as fans tore through the streets celebrating their Super Bowl victory, many could not help but notice the difference in how the public and officials reacted to the riots when in comparison to those prompted by civil unrest. And I love this because it's like, well, with the Philadelphia riots, as we've seen, there's actually quite a few people that just took to the streets to be like, yeah, we won the Super Bowl. And the rioting that was violent, let's say, was not directly organized, as opposed to many of the civil rights riots put together by Black Lives Matter, where they have organized contingents of people intentionally there to stir trouble. And it's like, you can't actually compare these two things. There's similarities in broad strokes, but in terms of the fine details, very different.
Yeah, not to mention the fact that everyone is in unanimous agreement that these people are stupid. The people who are burning shit and whatnot, they're idiots, and that they should be condemned. But for some reason, that's not enough for them. Again, no one is supporting these people. So I don't know how you could call it white privilege. No one's suggesting that they be supported in their behavior.
Well, and this is really terribly offhand, but if I look at the picture of the people tilting things, what's wonderful, it appears to be a multicultural mob. We have African Americans, we have Chinese Americans, we have white Americans. We appear to have some Latinos too. That's so a beautiful thing.
Such diversity of disrespecting property rights. I'm glad that people of all skin colors can disrespect people's property.
Yes.
Thank you for that revelation.
Surely it is a human trait, and we must all just burn someone else's shit.
No, and my to me, in both those examples, they're all just a bunch of assholes. The other difference is well, I don't know. I mean, how this is white privilege, I don't understand. Because the other thing why people might be screaming about the Black Lives Matter one, because they're generally protesting over a criminal who has had something happen to him. So and especially when you talk about Baltimore, where it is a predominantly black leadership, and yet they're still screaming about racism. It kind of is a bit of a it falls on.
It's very difficult to take them seriously. Yeah.
And when and then in particular when the administration at the time wouldn't condemn it, made jokes about it. Essentially, I don't see the correlation between those at all. And it sounds like, even by, what you said there, Duffer, is that, the police were able to get it under control, whereas the Black Lives Matter one, we know that wasn't the case. The police were not able to get it under control for days. So
yeah,
they if that's part of white privilege, is that they actually pay attention to and listen to the cops when they're told to disperse. That's not white privilege. That's just, intelligence.
An interesting meta narrative to come out of this there, Stan, would be, to what degree in sports riots do the mayor and the council of the city essentially just say to the police, do your job, as opposed to in many of these riots that seem to be racially motivated, or at least have racial overtones, the police are generally told, back off.
Well, I mean, if you want to have that comparison, look at Berkeley. The police were told to back off, and how much damage was done. It's clear in Philadelphia, the police were told, get out there, do your jobs. And as Crow pointed out, yeah, it was sensationalized, but really it seems like the damage was overall minimal in comparison. So there's no correlation. And I don't know how much you knew about Super Bowl, Duffer, but where the Super Bowl was held was actually halfway across the country from Philadelphia. So there wasn't going to be anyone, coming out of the stadium because the stadium was not in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, that's just, to me, it's a deflection. They just, they want to, try and excuse their own bad actions by making it seem like there's less of a a condemnation of this action. Should the Philadelphia mayor have been prepared? Probably, because like I said, I mean, I think if there was no football, I would have said 100%, win or lose, there is going to be something that happens in that city.
Always.
It was going to happen.
What were you about to say there, Crow?
I was saying, and on top of that, you have to emphasize the fact that no one's supporting these people. That's a difference.
No.
The media, politicians, you want to talk about a double standard. Let's talk about the Black Lives Matter bullshit in Baltimore. You had some politicians in the Democrat Party calling it the Baltimore uprising. And really, the Baltimore uprising, I know, against what?
Bro, you have to take into account, Democrats don't care about factual functioning reality.
Yes, I'm aware that most people don't really care about reality. And
well, you don't sound like it.
I know, but I'm just saying it's ridiculous that you have these people who are claiming that it's somehow an uprising, and I'm just thinking, against what? Baltimore is half black. The population's, again, about 50% black. You have a mostly black city council, 2/3 black, all Democrat. You have a black police chief, black police lieutenant, black command staff, mostly non-white police force, black mayor. Who the fuck are you uprising against?
This kind of reminds me of something I remember, because the last 2 days, and Duffer, you might be able to appreciate this, I've been watching just a bunch of random Jordan Peterson snippets, and he was talking about how, what was it? He was talking about, I believe it was Occupy Wall Street, and how there were some people, there were some groups, not necessarily in that camp, who were like, we want to change this, that. And then when you go to the people at like Occupy Wall Street, their main thing was like, we want things to be different. And it's like, oh, what a very narrowly defined thing. I don't know. That's just kind of what you made me think of with that. It's like, what are they uprising against? It's like, we want things to be a little different.
Well, and if we're going to borrow from Peterson with regards to that, what they're asking for is to get a reward for doing nothing, and through doing nothing, proving themselves to be superior to people who actually have to do something. So,
socialism.
Yeah, essentially. And that's what makes it extremely frustrating, is it takes very legitimate things, and they like to throw a lot of catchphrases and buzzwords and newspeak over top of it, and in doing so drain any legitimacy from it. Right. To say that it's actually a good thing to have an idea about what corporations are doing is great. But on the flip side, when you say, power to the people, it's like, well, what do you mean? Democracies as a whole are mob rule. You don't really want power to the people directly.
Yeah, basically, well, my best argument against democracy is that 70% of American adults fail the citizenship test. There you go. That's my best case against democracy. Most Americans don't know jack shit about civics, about politics, about economics. I mean, it's true.
But Crow, I hope you're not arguing for oligarchy then.
Oh no, I'm arguing for no government control whatsoever. Because when you allow voters to control economic issues, then you get bad policies. So my argument is basically just everyone do things voluntarily.
I mean, to Crow's point, when it comes to voters, when we sit there and we see, his point is factual. Especially when you see how many politicians are in office for 20, 30 plus years. Look at like Pelosi and Maxine Waters, who have done shit for their districts, but have been in office forever. Why? Because people recognize their names. They have no idea what they stand for, no idea what their policies are. I mean, Maxine Waters' district, is primarily black and is still in the gutter, and she's been in there for almost 30 years, but they know her name. That's essentially all they need to know to vote for her. So he's 100% right. People don't know, for the majority, don't know and don't want to know what people, what politicians' stance are on most things. They hear the fluff that they say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to clean this up, okay, what are your specific, what are your plans for this? You've had this gig for 28 years. It shouldn't take this long to fix something.
It's almost as if government is not the answer to your problems.
No, that can't be it. That can't be it at all.
That's just downright ridiculous, but whatever. The bottom line is, I don't support democracy. I don't support government as a whole. I think that's just a ridiculous concept to have people who don't know jack shit about what they're talking about deciding on various issues. That's my stance on government. I think that people should just stick to what they're good at, and that means that people just specialize. It's basically just a market. People who are good at building computers build computers, and don't tell me how to build erasers. If you build erasers, don't tell me how to lay down concrete. If you lay down concrete, don't tell me how to grow potatoes. So on and so forth.
All right. Now, not Dr. Manhattan, Mr. Sutherland. This is going to be for a loop all night. What are your thoughts? You were kind of quiet on that topic.
I was just kind of absorbing it. Honestly, there's so much stupid in the world. God. Oh, this should be. I'm kind of thinking to myself now. Do you think there's is there some kind of class? Is there a class we can teach I don't know, just high school kids or entering college kids and be like, okay, just so you know, there's gonna be some stuff in this world that doesn't make sense, and it's gonna be really fucking dumb. And here's some coping mechanisms that aren't alcohol. I don't know.
I don't know.
You should know by now. That's what they're getting away from teaching them. They're teaching them. Yeah. They're not teaching them about how reality works. They're teaching them social justice and and no, it's not going away. They don't teach any real world skills. And in fact, they're going away from teaching real world skills.
This is why apprenticeships are a good thing. Yeah, but I think our society would be a lot better off without schools, to be honest with you.
I could see the argument for that.
Yeah, if you take a look at social studies, for instance, the average American takes almost a decade of social studies classes throughout their K-12 schooling. And despite the fact that they take almost a decade of social studies classes, we see that over 70% of native-born adults fail the U.S. citizenship test. So with that being said, what the hell are we spending this money and time for? The average cost of putting each kid through K-12 school is $170,000. For social studies classes, it's about $20,000 per kid throughout their schooling. So we're spending $20,000 in a decade of these people's lives, and over 70% of them still fail the citizenship test. Come on. If any other system had those kinds of results, we would demand its abolition.
The only thing which I'd raise with that there, Crow, is would you give a Red Seal Level 3 test to someone who is a shop clerk?
Red Seal Level 3? What?
So for cooking, to become a chef, you need to complete your Red Seal Level 3. But would you give that to a shopkeeper? So it's not a like-for-like test in that example, because the people who have already gone through the school system have already met the criterion for what the test is supposedly trying to do, which is compressing 10 years worth of Americana knowledge into one sitting of a test so that people coming into the system...
It's basic shit. How long is this term of a senator? What does the Fourth Amendment say? Just basic shit. All right, so this isn't, what is quantitative easing? What is the fractional reserve banking system? What does the Federal Reserve do? No, it's not any of that stuff. It's just basic shit. How long is the term of a senator? What does the First Amendment enumerate?
Crow, the reason why you have a citizenship test is essentially to get people into the climate of the nation. So it's not surprising that people within the nation couldn't answer the specifics, but they still go along with how the system works. So it's more of a general awareness indicator, as opposed to saying you need to know this because you need to know it. It's no, knowing this will help you fit into the system which you're trying to become.
But they don't know it. That's the thing.
Never. On that last bit, would you say it's kind of like how I don't know, say I was gonna go to fucking, I don't know, let's say tomorrow I go to Mexico and I know for some reason Spanish, and I'm very careful to understand, say everything is, as grammatically correct as possible so I can kind of ease my way in. Meanwhile, all these people are saying all kinds of shit I don't even know how to follow, because they're speaking they're speaking their own kind of slang. You know what I'm getting at? Like, I'm trying to see if that's how that kind of connected to my head.
More so, think of it like this: any citizenship test, even the one in here in Canada, is essentially a crash course in behavioral norms, or at least systematic norms or system-wide trends. So what we're trying to get them to know is that there are these things that are part of our government, there are these rights and responsibilities, and there is a distribution of powers. But it's not the specificity of the knowledge that's important, it's rather bringing the awareness that you should be beholden to these powers that is the specific intent of a citizenship test.
Okay. That's just like, wait a second.
So, Crow, what I'd say is, like, the average American, even though they might not know the specifics, they will know that they have to vote. And they will know that senators' terms eventually do disappear, even if they don't know the specifics. Whereas if you have someone coming in from, let's say, Nairobi, they wouldn't have any clue about those things.
No, everyone knows that you have to vote. First of all, you don't have to vote. Everyone knows that you vote in elections. Everyone knows that. All right. Everyone around the world who is interested in coming here will know at least that basic fact that people vote here. They know that. All right. But the bottom line is that if you don't even know what the Fourth Amendment says, what the hell? How the hell are you going to have a reasonable opinion on any sort of security measures? How are you supposed to have any sort of particular stance on civil forfeiture if you don't know what the Fifth Amendment says? Basically, the bottom line is, do you know what the fuck you're talking about? And most Americans don't. And that's despite over a decade of schooling, $170,000 per person. And most Americans still don't know what the fuck they're talking about. So to say that the school system is a valid investment is just not the case.
Anyhow, Crow and I actually talked about this a while back, and in principle, I agree with him in terms of the nature of the education system could be done better. Absolutely. But would it be all right if we rolled on to the next topic there, guys?
Please.
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm rolling on to this because it's actually Canadian news. Canada's glorious Prime Minister, King Justin Trudeau, at a meeting which was held, I think it was just a liberal, I forget what location it was held in, but a woman asked a question and she used the term mankind. And Justin Trudeau turned around and goes, no, that's incorrect. People kind. And it's just like, oh, Justin, what water have you been drinking?
So we prefer the term people kind. It's more inclusive. And what I find interesting is this is the same guy that had put out a thing, I think a year or two ago, saying that you should not interrupt women. So not only did he interrupt her, but then he mansplained to her and corrected her language.
That sexist fuck.
How very unprogressive of him.
Oh my God, that cishet white, Caucasian.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Exactly.
The man who said that if you kill your enemies, they win.
That was a weird one to me. You know. You kill your
well, that's
stupid.
Yeah, I know, but I didn't think that even he could be that stupid. I mean, if you kill your enemies by default, they kind of didn't win.
I think our Canadian brethren will say no. He can be that stupid. He has a large body of work that will show you he's.
Well, yeah. So here's my rant about Justin Trudeau. He was handpicked, and he's the second head of the Liberal Party that was handpicked because of his PR value, essentially because his dad was a prime minister. He is kind of like George W. Bush as to George Bush Sr., kind of a dynasty within the Canadian government. But the thing which is so killer here is he is trying to take a stand for a social justice by saying you should not use a word that has man in it to describe all human beings. So technically he wouldn't even use human beings. It would be people beings. But what drives me up the wall is the etymology of the word humankind and the etymology of the word man are not related. So it's a homonym fallacy. It sounds the same, therefore it must be the same. That's kind of like saying Stan and Dan are the same person because they both have AN in them.
Well, I'll tell you, actually, that happens more. I cannot tell you how many times I have been called Dan. And actually, for a while, I worked in an office with a Dan, and it was constantly mixed up. But I will say this has, there have been some glorious memes about this. One was a Seinfeld where it I don't know how much you all know about Seinfeld. I don't watch it much, but where Jerry says hello Newman, and Justin goes, excuse me, it's new people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the memes have been glorious of Justin Trudeau interrupting people, when the word man is part of a word, because, like you said, he cannot make that distinction. And you know what? I think it's odd that he backtracked and said he was just kidding.
He's like, that was too dumb even for me, apparently.
No. It wasn't dumb enough. He backtracked because what he should have said was zur autonomous two-legged.
Exactly. It should have said, it's just now let me get. This is a question I actually I posed to Roaming, and I for hopefully one of her future videos. And let me ask you, what is your gauge or feel? Do you think that next year that he has any valid or viable competition, or do you think he will be reelected?
Oh, he'll absolutely be reelected. The Conservative Party here is in a shambles, essentially because it's not the Conservative Party. So about 12 years ago, the Alliance Party and the Progressive Conservative Party merged, and out of it came a guy named Stockwell Day who kind of failed. And then we actually had Harper come out of that. But Harper actually represented more towards the progressive end of things, more of the alliance end of things than the conservative. And so within the Conservative Party itself, there's still some very strong divisions, and it's really hard to get a cohesive leader. Partially because the last couple conservative prime ministers have gotten a lot of negative press, both Trudeau and a guy named, drawing a blank on Brian Mulroney. So what the Conservative Party of Canada needs to do is either re-separate or figure out what it means to be a conservative Canadian, because so much of our possible candidates are trying to run it on an American platform, when really they should be looking at conservative Canadian values, which would actually look towards conserving things like gay marriage, and also conservative platforms in our case which would be saying minimal public service, public health, but not an expansion of it. And they're not doing that. So they're missing a lot of Canadians by trying to ape the Conservative Party south of the border.
All right, so basically they're not conservative.
Well, not in the way you guys would understand it. We would be closer to the Conservative Party in the UK.
Yeah, so basically not conservative, all right. So basically the less insane leftists, essentially. Yeah.
No, our Conservative Party would be well to the left of your Democratic Party.
I wish I could say I'm surprised, but looking at some of our elected officials that got reelected, I mean, it's clear no amount of idiocy can stop people from getting reelected. So,
I mean, we almost elected Clinton, so
honestly, at this point,
close.
Honestly, at this point, I would just like to nuke the entire thing.
Hard reset? Oh dear.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why Kim Jong-un got his sister to leave South Korea. Maybe there's something to be read into that.
What the fuck? Why the hell would you leave South Korea? Oh, whatever.
No, she's been at the Olympics, and of course, CNN is filleting themselves over how wonderful she is.
What?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hear about this?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh yeah. She's amazing. They've been glowing about the North Korean, and I forget what they're called, but the North Korean cheerleaders, essentially.
Yeah.
And how great they are. And to their credit, a guy from MSNBC who's there actually did tweet out. I realize that there are some in the media that are glamorizing Kim Jong-un's sister and these cheerleaders, but let me be clear: the Korean athletes that are here are not happy that they are here. I was watching actually some speed skating yesterday, and the announcers on NBC were just, oh, look how wonderful they are. They're supporting their Korean athletes, and look at how excited the Korean athletes are. The Korean athletes are not excited. So no, Crow, you're not living in an alternate universe. I mean, does this really surprise you? This is not the first time that CNN has made, I mean, here's the thing from the New York Times. Without a word, only flashing smile, Kim Jong-un's sister outflank Vice President Mike Pence in diplomacy. I mean, the delusion is it's literally to the point where, I mean, it's like the Democrats at the State of the Union address. They hate Trump more than any other emotion that they have, and it's all that this is how they react. It has nothing to do with anything else other than, oh, Trump doesn't like this, or this could make Trump look good. We need to, this makes, Pence is here. We need to make anyone around him look 1,000 times more glamorous, more wonderful, more this, more that. Yeah.
It's just downright insane. I mean, I don't like Republicans, but even I gotta just get over this ridiculous demonization, because really, what the fuck do they do that's really so goddamn awful compared to any other political party?
It plays into the same right think kind of feel that both the Olympics and the World Cup to a large degree play, where they're like, we are saving the world through sport. And it's like, we're going to ignore in Qatar that we pretty much know that people died making those stadiums, and they probably weren't getting paid while they were dying. And in the same way,
it's just like Hollywood.
Yeah,
we're so glamorous. We're saving the world because we're so glamorous.
Like what Rose McGowan said, what I do is for the fucking world. It's like, okay there, honey, that's nice.
Well, and on top of that, if we're looking historically, what the Koreas are being pressured to do at some point in the future is very much what happened with East and West Germany, where they decided to merge them back together as one nation, but on the West Germans' dollar. A lot of the German economy got sunk into bringing East Germany back up to par. And East Germany was significantly more advanced on the whole than North Korea. So there's Koreans going, literally, these people, these athletes, their families are being held hostage. They are here and they are not defecting because their mom and dad will catch a bullet. And you guys want us to be on the same team as them. And I think that's a really rightful and righteously indignant stance to take, because this is your window washing the people who are beholden of a mass murderer and the people who have been stunted in their growth specifically. So if you look at North Korean athletes, they're tiny compared to their South Korean compatriots. And it's like, why is that? It's like, well, if you live in North Korea, you're probably starved at some point in your life, and we're glorifying these people. Yeah,
they are. Yeah. And it's staggering, it's just when I hear it, I'm like, this thought ran through my head, and I obviously hope it. Could you imagine if North Korea decide, hey, you know what? The Olympics are there. There's a whole lot of important people there. Let's make a statement. I mean, they could easily do it.
Fun.
and then let's see how how much the mainstream media will glow about Kim Jong-un's sister when it turns out she was there planting trackers and chemical weapons.
Yeah, it's just fucking ridiculous.
Well, the other thing which I find terrible personally is, as much as I find the whole North Korean dynamic terrible, the fact that they have mixed doubles curling in this Olympics is an affront to curling as a whole. And it's not because it's mixed doubles. It's because the damn shooter is allowed to follow their own rock down to the
I'm actually glad you mentioned it, because I actually have a match on right now that I keep glancing over at. And I've found that I'm like, And you know who does it a lot is the Olympic athletes from Russia. Like the woman will start scrubbing and he just like kind of bowls her out of the way. He's like, no, I must do it. And I'm like, I found that very very peculiar. I mean, I wouldn't say it's an affront because I mean it's some interesting there's been some good games, but yeah, the whole I can shoot and I can also follow the rock is kind of weird.
Well, what kills me about that is I actually like that men and women can play that game together because you can. Like you go to beer leagues here in Canada, it's always mixed, it's always co-ed. Yep. And that makes for great curling. They just need to give them more beer. But this whole 2 people on a team, it's not curling. That is sacrilege. That is sacrilege to the holy stones.
Good to know.
Now let's just say this now, okay? Because she does frequently listen. Duffer, roaming has called curling the devil's game. So I just wanted you to be prepared that you and I are probably now considered to be heretics.
On her shit list, guys.
Because I even sent her a picture. I'm like, look, curling's on. She's like, you will be punished for this. I'm like, wow. I'm like, really, curling? You really?
Okay, I'm looking this up, and so far from what I've gathered, curling seems incredibly boring.
Yes, absolutely.
It can be. I mean, golf is boring to watch, yes. But there's, but the thing is, it's like, people are like, oh, it's just shooting a rock down the ice. I'm like, okay, that's part of it, but I'm like, it's not, you can't just sit there and waylay a rock down as fast as possible because guess what? You're going to lose a lot because there is a great deal of strategy involved in where you place the stones and all this stuff. So I understand the boring, but I'll also say I have found myself, sitting in my chair and watching it for hours at a time, just absolutely enamored with it.
Crow, it's a Scottish sport. This is the same nationality that gave us golf, which in the immortal words of Robin Williams are, we're going to get a sweet little ball and you have to hit it into a gopher hole. Oh, like over there? No, we're going to put it hundreds of miles away. Oh, so you get to throw it? No, you get to use a stick. Oh, a straight stick? No, a stick with a kink in it. And when you hit it and you miss, you'll have a stroke. And that's what you'll call it, a stroke. So it's the same thing. So
that golf bit for Rob Williams is one of his best by far. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I missed that bastard.
That is one of his most fabulous bits. Is the golf? Yeah, absolutely.
I actually just said that Robin Williams. The first thing that came up was golf. So I think
nice.
13 million views, Jesus. All right, but the bottom line is, yeah.
You looked up the Robin Williams golf video? Yeah. It doesn't surprise me. He's got. Actually, I'm surprised it only has 13 million because it is spectacular.
Yeah. So basically, I think that most sports are kind of boring. This is why I watch esports instead. I like Smash Bros because it's just more entertaining. There's more action.
Most sports, watching them on TV is it is a lot different than if you were there in person. Although I would say, I can't imagine being there in person is needed for curling, much like I can't imagine being there in person is needed for golf. So,
well, and the other thing which is nice about curling from the Olympic perspective is even professional curlers are essentially still amateurs, and it allows a great number of people to go to the Olympics, and the teams can be fairly fluid. And it's all right for roaming not to like curling. That's totally fine. Just
do not give in to her. No.
Why does she hate it so much? Exactly.
I have no idea. She just doesn't.
Oh no, Stan, I can tell you why. She's only half Canadian.
Oh, that's right.
The halfling filth. The mixed filth.
Ouch! No, I wouldn't go that far.
That hurts, man. It hurts me. I'm the one who's half Canadian.
The bottom line is that it's just seriously no. I just don't understand why she has such a visceral hatred for it.
I mean, she probably doesn't have a visceral hatred. She just probably enjoys busting my chops.
Okay,
she probably just. I mean,
I mean, she named her dog Jelly Bean, so who can we really trust?
I just don't get it. She's like, she probably is just like, it's just not for her, and that's fine. But I find it fascinating. So, and now that I actually kind of understand how the scoring works and how the rules work, it's even more fascinating.
Well, I was going to say that, and she also lives in Quebec, where when it's cold, you have curlers on the side streets, and you have to dodge the rocks. She might have got caught by a few.
Oh,
they give her PTSD.
That could be it.
But, gentlemen, lest we be sidetracked more by the greatest game of Stone.
Absolutely. The reason to watch the Winter Olympics.
What are your guys' thoughts on the upcoming Black Panther movie?
I'm excited. I like Marvel.
I stopped watching movies quite a while ago. I just don't want to give these Hollywood hacks money.
That's fair. That's fair. I did a video on this actually because I was so pissed recently mad about it because I was like, because for those who don't know, Salon made an article saying basically that I can't remember his name. Is it Chadwick? Is that what his first name is? I don't know.
Chadwick Bosworth.
Thank you. They said that he was the first black actor to be in the lead role of a blockbuster film. And my mind immediately went to that one meme where it's Will Smith doing this, except it's Will Smith doing this to his entire filmography, as well as like Wesley Snipes, Denzel Washington, all these other fucking people. I'm like...
The Django Unchained, Hancock.
Yes.
Blade.
You want to talk about one of the original summer blockbusters, Will Smith, Independence Day. That was one of the first big blockbusters, and he did Men in Black. I mean, Will Smith has been in plenty of them.
Yeah, Men in Black made over $1 billion. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, and even if you go to the, I mean, I think what they're going, okay, in a superhero blockbuster, okay, because it's like, all right, Blade wasn't exactly a blockbuster. I didn't even think Hancock would be considered a blockbuster. I don't think it was that huge. I mean, especially when if you put it up like against Avengers or Iron Man, but they're so desperate, just desperate to make it to beef up this film as much as possible. It really, to me, feels like they know it's going to do okay, but it is going to overall be mediocre at the box office.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to have a great deal of people going back. The fact that right now, anyone who, who's, done the pre-screening, who has given it, there's been a couple people giving a negative review and they are being slammed as racist.
This is what I hate about all these sorts of how should I put it? These token movies. Basically, if you don't like it, it must be because you hate X. If you don't like Rush Hour, it must be because you don't like Chinese people.
No, it's because we can't stand Chris Tucker's freaking "I got kicked in the balls" voice.
I like Rush Hour, but I could definitely understand why some people.
I like Rush Hour, but not because Chris Tucker's in it.
Well, yeah, I can definitely agree with that. But the bottom line is that it doesn't make you racist to not like Jackie Chan.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, not everyone has to like every movie. I mean, I personally think Shawshank Redemption is one of the greatest movies ever made.
That's another guy, Morgan fucking Freeman.
When it was released, Shawshank Redemption did absolutely shit at the box office. Does that mean it's a bad movie? No. It's just people have, I mean, you do not have to like every, I mean, it's insanity. And it's making me want to not like the movie just because I'm being told I have to like it.
If I may,
Mr. Sutherland.
It's my goat about the whole, like, I don't know, maybe this is just me, but I see a lot of these people who are talking about like, oh, a movie's not getting recognized in this way, or it's not getting this award. And like, I believe a while back, Get Out, but that it was it's Jordan Peele. He, like, it was supposed to be in a very specific awards category. I believe it was like comedy or musical, and everybody was like, "Does this look like it was a fucking comedy?" Like they were getting offended about this, and it's like, art is subjective, you dumb fuck.
Yeah.
I don't understand the point of these award shows. Are more of like they're more masturbatory than anything else. There's nothing.
It was basically a horror projection film. Basically, it was a bunch of black people projecting their paranoid delusions about white people.
Right, and I've heard it was a good movie. I'm like, hey, if it's a good movie and you enjoy it, that's all you should need. I mean.
No, they need their self-congratulatory awards to tell them how wonderful and virtuous they are, which is I find it's funny that they're offended that they didn't get nominated for an award, and it's your own group that is. It's like it's your own echo chamber that's you know. But yeah, I mean, I've seen that with many times where it's it's almost they're offended. This didn't do better. It's because people didn't understand it. You saw that with that Jennifer Lawrence film, Mother. It's like, you people just didn't understand the message. It's like, no, maybe it was just a shitty film. I mean, that is a possibility.
A movie I like to think about where people tell me it's good, but when I watch it, it's utter shit, is like Donnie Darko. And I didn't understand the fucking thing that was going on in that movie. And it wasn't until like I looked on a website and I was like, okay, if you need reading material to go along with your movie or because it's too abstract, you fucked up. And you deserve to be lauded for it. Stop it.
You don't deserve to be lauded for it.
Yeah. If you'll permit me to purge my nerd spleen at this point in time.
By all means, go ahead. Spit it out.
I desperately want this movie to be at least decent because I think Black Panther from Civil War, they did him well. But they seem to forget who Black Panther is. He's an anti-hero. He is the guardian of Wakanda, a nation in Africa that has kept people out by viciously killing anyone who decides to enter. That is the Black Panther's job, to maintain the purity of Wakanda and Wakanda's people. He is essentially a racist and an ethnocentrist. And his grandfather was responsible for beating the crap out of Captain America when Captain America tried to sneak in to steal vibranium. So it's like T'Challa is unique in that he is fighting against who he's supposed to be by taking a role in international affairs and trying to help. But at the same time, if you actually asked him, can I come to Wakanda with you? In the comics, he would say, no, Wakanda is not for you. It is for the Wakandan people. And if you try and come in without my permission, I will kill you. And he's supposed to be that kind of badass. In fact, he marries the character Storm from X-Men for about 3 years.
That's right.
And they break up because essentially Storm's like, so which is more important, Wakanda or me? And he goes, don't ask me that. And she's like, no, seriously. And he goes, Wakanda every time. And they break up because the Black Panther is not a good guy. The Black Panther is king and executioner for his people. And I really wish they'd address the dark side of him because that's what makes him unique.
Good luck. Yeah, that will never. When they would the only time. Okay, they would never do it in that aspect because I would imagine in the comics the majority of people that tried to sneak in or break into the city were probably people from Africa and were black. So they're not going to have a black hero, or anti-hero killing other black people. That in this day and age, that's never going to happen. The only way they would do is if it was, a bunch of white people. That's the only time they would do that.
Yeah, the Black Panther is basically a fucking Nazi. That's what you should know.
Yeah, well, he's an ethno and cultural purist, but he's an ethno and cultural purist who, unlike his predecessors, is at least willing to entertain the outside world. But that's what makes him really torn because he was actually allowed to go and get educated in the West and stuff like this. So he's always balancing the fact that he is the protector of his people. And Wakanda's entire lifeblood is vibranium and they have a limited stock. So if they ever run out, they're screwed. But so long as they have it, they're the most advanced people in the world. And the other analogy I draw here is Namor, the Aquaman of the Marvel Universe, is half Asian and has exactly the same backstory. He is the protector of Atlantis. They allow Namor to become a bad guy and be evil outright they won't do the same thing with Black Panther. And it's frustrating because what makes good characters is sometimes making them a really interesting bad guy, because then they have depth.
So what you're saying is that Wakanda's policy on illegal immigration is the death penalty.
Yes, summary death penalty.
I mean, essentially, there's no sanctuary section of Wakanda. It's essentially you try and come in illegally without my permission, and you will be killed. Okay,
Under original comic lore, yes, they've retconned it a couple times, which just drives me nuts.
Of course, they have.
That's good times, those comic books.
There was another. And the other question I have on a geeky subject: if vibranium is the indestructible metal, how do they mine it?
It's not indestructible.
It absorbs all energy, but you can still perhaps
right. But if it absorbs the energy, you need energy to mine it when you hit it. So
they got around that. They use antimatter fields in order to extract it.
Okay, I don't know if it's because I'm dehydrated or because of that sentence, but either way, my head fucking hurts just now.
And actually, the black. I'm sure we all know Black Hitler, Gazi Kodo.
Oh yeah.
When this movie was first announced way back when, and they showed some of the previews, he said, "This is what Africa would look like if not for the white man."
Oh god.
And with the flying cars and all technology, and I'm like, okay, so you're telling me that they would have miraculously found a 10-ton pile of vibranium that makes them the richest country in the world? Is that what you're telling me?
You're telling me that they could find a fictional metal? So basically,
fictional metal, and
you're basically saying that blacks can only advance in fiction. That's what they're saying.
And if we stole all this stuff, how come we don't have flying cars? How come we don't have this technology if we stole all this stuff from them? I found that quite humorous. I'm like, oh, so in other words, you believe that in your fictional narrative that I found that quite funny. I'm like, you realize it's not real.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't fucking realize that.
No, I found that funny. But to your point, Duffer, I do hope it's good. I want to like it. I hope I like it, but the way it's being driven down our throats that we have to like it, it's kind of
Well, the thing which always frustrates me is this: they want to turn every place that is not America, that is not the West, into a utopia that was never realized. But the truth is, African history is fascinating, diverse, and multi-layered. And they just don't want to get into it because when they do, they realize that they're just like everybody else. You have tribal warfare. You have people killing one another. You have groups that probably shouldn't be in power oppressing other groups. But that's what makes humanity fascinating. We overcome ourselves and ideally become better. I don't know if Crow would agree.
Yep, that sounds like a Crow response.
Now, gentlemen, we have a grand total of 3 minutes left. Anyone have any last topics?
I just want Black Panther to be good. That's all I can think of right now. Oh, did you say something about? Oh no, we already went over that in the riots. Never mind.
I want people to stop watching movies. There you go.
Stan,
check out my YouTube channel.
There you go.
I've been doing I've done some videos called Regular Guy Rants. I've also did an interview last week with the Rovertime podcast own Mark Wazz, a little 10-minute interview, and I'll be doing next week. I'll be doing one with Mining Freedom. And then the week after that, I don't know if anyone knows.
I'm down. I want to do it.
Our friend on the Twitter, Crystal. I will be doing an interview with her. And yes, I will be reaching out to most of you for interviews as well. So
now, Stan, can you just give us the name of your channel there?
It's just Stan.
So simple.
I see it's not in the description. I'll update it to put the link in the description.
The great and wonderful Wazz is letting me know that I'm not allowed to end the podcast without telling everyone that Elon Musk and SpaceX successfully launched a Tesla car with the spaceman playlist done by David Bowie and a dummy driving the car towards what was supposed to be Mars. They missed, and it might hit an asteroid and get destroyed. So congratulations to Elon Musk.
You know, I wish I had billions of dollars to just fuck around with.
No, they weren't fucking around. They were testing the Falcon Heavy reusable rocket. So
okay, but everything else seems to be miscellaneous and just. Oh, I love it.
Oh no, but they needed a payload to test it with to see if it could actually hold a heavy capacity.
Wazz also informs me that Elon Musk is a fan of what's called Inception, because on the dashboard of the Tesla was a Hot Wheels of the Tesla with another guy in it, with apparently a micro version of Rocket Man playing in the radio. But with that, gentlemen,
someone protect Elon Musk. He's a national treasure.
Well, with that there, gentlemen, though, I think we should say our goodbyes.
Goodbye.
Have a good day.
Crow?
Later.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, remember next week, same Rover time, same Rover channel. Have a great week, ladies and gentlemen.